Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the ASTROLABE, the premier late afternoon morning show on the internet. It's good to see you guys in the chat. Apologies for being late today. Had to go get my teeth worked on some more, which was not fun. But I am here. I got everything all prepared and ready to go beforehand. It took me longer to kind of filter through some of the BS and put together all the links for the show. But good news is I've got tomorrow's show basically ready to go as well, because we're going to get a short turnaround, the shortest turnaround ever, perhaps, between ASTROLABE episodes from late afternoon to morning the next day. Of course, you guys know that's a joke. It's not going to be morning tomorrow. I guess it depends on where you live. All right. So I got some stuff today for you guys on the pager situation. And then I've got some great videos of Trump, some not so great videos of Kamala. Got some stuff about the FCC and the Starlink deal, the massive fraud being perpetrated through that. Gavin Newscum banning memes. And then I got a clip from JD Vance on Tucker. And what else was in here? Yeah, the Teamsters, some stuff about polling, fake polls, a few different things. So before we get started, welcome to everyone in the chat. Do me a favor, hit the like button on your way in. What do we got right now? We got 28 watching and 14 likes. So let's try to keep it, see if we can keep it at like 75%. 75% live viewers to likes as we make our way on up. It'll be interesting to see what the viewership is like this time of day. And I'm going to try to get us out of here in under 2 hours so that you guys can make your way on over to the Old Glory Club and watch their live stream tonight, because that's what I will be doing. So let's see here. Episode is sponsored by the King Pill Discord, the #1 community, the #1 secret society, super private, top secret, elite group of Astrolabian supporters and general King Pilled fans. Kingpill.com is the place to go to get that. And tomorrow evening will be the Schizo stream. So if you'd like to be a part of that, we don't know what it's going to be about. This is part of the Schizo experiences. You never know what it's going to be. And I'll figure it out as it happens. But that'll be tomorrow evening. On everyone who is in the Discord has access to that stream and can join us for that. So Pete Quinones in the chat, he says he will be on the OGC live stream as per usual. Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy the streams with a good friend of the show, Pete Quinones. All right, let's rock and roll here. So the very first one I've got is an update on a video that I played a while back. I played, if you guys remember it, the video of the little boy who got the letter from Trump. Little boy with like some kind of genetic issue, and he reads off the letter. He starts crying. I played that for you guys. So we've got an update on that story. After seeing a young New York supporter's emotional reaction to his moving birthday card upon learning of his rare brain disorder diagnosis, Trump decided to surprise him again with a special present ahead of his NYC rally. The media will never show you. That's why you watch the ASTROLABE, so that I can show you Benny Johnson showing you. Or actually, I can show Benny Johnson showing Breaking 9/11 showing you.
I'm supposed to be in that stage, but that doesn't matter. Because I got you the best president you'll ever have. This is the best president you'll ever have. How are you, Pop? Hi, Mom. Okay, honey, this is yours. And in there is real good stuff. Okay? So beautiful. See, look at that. Look at these great photographers. And we're going to have that picture of a life, okay? You and I. Is she going to come out and watch me?
Of course.
Because I left the stage in order to come and say hello to him.
Especially you are.
Okay, honey? So beautiful. So you take care of Mom and Dad? Is that your sister?
He can't stop staring at him.
So why don't you do this? Take care of yourselves. Okay, I'm going to go right after
Okay, thank
this.
you.
Take care of yourself, honey, okay? I wish I looked like that. If I looked like that, I'd be president. I'm supposed to be in that.
Oh, man. Look at our president, you guys. Just the Riz master. Just owns a room. Yeah, our king loves his subjects, and we subjects love our king. Damn straight. That's what Dak Jack says. Oh, man. What a beautiful video. He manages to, like, he's obviously in a hurry. He even says a couple things. You can tell he's in a hurry. He's headed out to go do this thing, but he manages to just maximize every single moment in a room like that. He's so natural in that environment. Another funny one here. Shout out to Brandon Walsh, an excellent follow on Twitter. You should all be following him. Powerful mutual. And he says, today I learned that North Korea is unfathomably based. Well, he's sharing Michael Malice, who says, today I learned that in 2014, North Korea ran the most effed up editorial about Obama I have ever seen. Listen to this. Looking at Obama's appearance makes my stomach turn with nausea. A dark-skinned, blunt gray eye, a wide-open nostril, a swollen, thick snout, and red ears covered in thick hair. The more you look into it, the more it looks like a wild boar from the African forest. Every time he gets on and off an airplane or goes up to the podium, he hops around with his long arms and legs, flailing around like a monkey, and he looks just like a monkey. When you see Obama's ugly appearance, like a monkey who can't calm down for even a moment, shaking his red buttocks, climbing this tree and that tree to eat the fruit or eating whatever falls to the ground, running around and making a fuss wherever and whenever, you start to doubt whether he's a real person or not. Not only have they been devouring the lands of the South until now, they are now even glancing at the lands of the North. Even though he looks like a mongrel and his lineage is unclear, the more I look at him, the more I think it's clear that Obama came out of a monkey's body. It's as if a crow is criticizing a heron for being such a scoundrel who does not even have the basic human qualities, let alone a politician, to dare to carelessly criticize our republic, a dignified independent state and a paradise for the people. Obama is a human error, a waste of time, who has no dignity or right to criticize us. Where on earth would Obama, who still looks like a snail after millions of years of human evolution, be? It would be perfect for them to live among a group of monkeys in the world's largest African zoo, licking breadcrumbs thrown by onlookers. Before Obama suffers further embarrassment in the sacred human world, he should quickly gather up his prey and go to his den of stray dogs. That is the only way to preserve the remnants. Kang Hyuk, worker at Cholima Steel Complex. Holy balls! This is the world I want to live in. This is how I want to hear people talking about their political adversaries. They're not the backwards ones. We are. This is an absolute nuke. Would that within the next election cycle, this is the way that American politicians begin speaking to one another. I want more fistfights on the floor of Congress. I want to see them actually on the floor, just fucking each other up. Be like the good old days. Unfathomably based North Koreans. Okay, so these pagers. I'm sure if any of you have been following this, I don't have a tremendous amount of news, new news. I'm not bringing anything new to the table here. I'm just going to share some of the kind of the basic facts from everyone else, and then I have my own thoughts on it that I'll share. So first of all, it's reported that possibly I don't know who any of these people are that I'm sharing it from. These are just the interesting tweets that I saw, or the tweets that had the information that I wanted to convey. It's reported that possibly over 1,000 Hezbollah terrorists were killed or injured when a cyber attack on their secure cell phones and pagers caused them to explode. It's almost biblical. Kaboom. So here, this is here to show some of these videos. I think these videos are okay to show on YouTube. Hopefully. If they're not, then, oh well, live and learn. But I think these ones will be okay. Let's see here. Okay, so watch this guy. So this guy here with the blue hat. Kaboomba! Wiener missing. This one here, watch the guy over here in the yellow. Kaboomba. So this one's interesting because you see him receive a message and reaches down to it, and then kablamo.
Hello.
And this one here is apparently someone had one inside a drawer. And that's what it did to the desk. So Pretty gnarly stuff. Not something that I would want to be on the receiving end of. So this here says, roughly an hour ago, Hezbollah's encrypted pager devices began simultaneously exploding across Lebanon, including in Damascus. Initial reports from Lebanon estimate around 1,000 plus casualties so far. Hezbollah has instructed all of its militants to immediately discard their pagers, calling this the most significant security breach they've ever encountered. Iran's Mehr news agency reports that Mojtaba Amani, Iran's ambassador to Lebanon, was injured when a pager exploded. So these pagers that are ostensibly, I'm just running through the details as the story is being reported. These pagers that were somehow surreptitiously given to members of Hezbollah, one of the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon had one of them. So, interesting little detail. Get the lip pillow in here. Now, I can't scroll down and show you those pictures because I definitely know that will not be tolerated on YouTube. Okay, so news article about it. This is from CBS News. What we know about the Hezbollah pagers that exploded in Lebanon. Now, this is a very interesting article because it actually gets into there was a lot more detail in here than I expected. I was looking for just kind of a basic rundown of the facts, and this one went into quite a bit of detail. A Hungarian official told CBS News Thursday that a Bulgaria-based company had purchased pagers from Taiwan that were eventually sold to Hezbollah. So, Hungarian official told CBS News that a Bulgaria-based company had purchased pagers from Taiwan. Whoops. What happened? Is there like a hidden link in here? Oh, yeah, okay. Go away, okay. All right, so Hungarian official says Bulgaria-based company had purchased pagers from Taiwan that were eventually sold to Hezbollah, before exploding in the hands, pockets, and bags of thousands of the Iran-backed militant group's members earlier this week in Lebanon. Hungarian outlet Telex had reported Wednesday that a Sofia-based company called Norta Global Limited was behind a deal to sell the pagers, and that a Hungarian firm connected with the transaction had not manufactured or sold the pagers. It's kind of interesting that they reported that. Like, are Hungarians, do they see something like this happen, and the Hungarians say, hey, is Hungary involved in this? Like, can't imagine. Like, it's a very odd thing to report on. A Hungarian official told CBS News those reports were accurate. The new information about the origin of the exploding papers came a day after Taiwanese company Gold Apollo said it had authorized the use of its trademark branding on the pagers that exploded Tuesday across Lebanon and Syria. Go away. But that the devices were actually manufactured and sold by Back Consulting KFT, a company based in Budapest, Hungary. Okay, so that's why they're reporting on it. Thousands of pagers held by Hezbollah members exploded almost simultaneously across Lebanon and Syria Tuesday, killing at least 12 people, so at least 12 dead, and wounding 2,750, according to Lebanon's public health minister. Quote, we authorize BAC to use our BAC to use our brand trademark for product sales in designated regions, but the design and manufacturing of the products are solely the responsibility of BAC, Gold Apollo said in a statement posted on its website. Regarding the AR-924 pager model mentioned in the recent media reports about Lebanon, we clarify that this model is produced and sold by BAC. Gold Apollo's founder and CEO, Su Ching Kwang, told NPR on Wednesday that, quote, there was nothing in those devices that we had manufactured or exported to them. So they're denying any role in it. The pagers, quote, were entirely different from Gold Apollo's designs and used a chip that Gold Apollo does not use in its own models, Su said. Su told NPR that Gold Apollo's relationship with Back Consulting began 3 years ago, and he described the Hungarian company's money transfers as strange. BAC Consulting had paid Gold Apollo from a Middle Eastern bank account that was blocked at least once by Gold Apollo's Taiwanese bank, Su said. It was very inconvenient, he told NPR, adding, you have to deal with these risks when doing global trade. In a post on Wednesday on social media, Zoltán Kovács, the spokesperson for the Hungarian Prime Minister's office, said Back Consulting is a trading intermediary with no manufacturing or operational site in Hungary. It has one manager registered at its declared address, and the referenced devices have never been in Hungary. During further investigations, Hungarian National Security Services are cooperating with all relevant international partner agencies and organizations, Kovács said. Business records accessed by CBS News from Hungary's Ministry of Justice show that Back Consulting was registered as a company in May of 2022. Separate records reviewed by CBS News show that Norta Global Limited was registered as a company in Bulgaria in April of 2022, with its sole owner listed as a Norwegian citizen named Renson Jose. Global Norta is described on its website, which has since been taken offline, as offering a range of services, quote, from outsourcing, consulting, tech and payment integration, analysis, promotion of techno products and services, as well as the estimation and processing of relevant commercial transactions. So it's just a front company. Images circulated wildly on social media showing the explosions hitting almost seemingly unsuspecting Hezbollah members across Lebanon. The CBS News confirmed team has verified the location of one video showing a man's bag exploding as he looks over fruit on display at a supermarket in Lebanon's capital city of Beirut. There were a number of other shoppers around him, but none appeared to be affected by the explosion at his hip. A statement released by Hezbollah, a powerful Iran-backed militant group and political faction based in Lebanon, confirmed that the pager explosions had targeted their members. It laid the blame firmly on Israel, vowing a, quote, harsh response that the criminal enemy must await for the massacre it committed, end quote. It remains unclear exactly how many Hezbollah pagers exploded on Tuesday, but a senior Lebanese security official and another source told the Reuters news agency that Israel's Mossad intelligence agency had planted a small amount of explosives inside 5,000 of the devices, which it said were ordered by Hezbollah months before the blasts. The devices were brought into the country, or into Lebanon, in the spring, the security source told Reuters. A delegation of Israeli lawmakers had visited Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen in April with the intention, quote, of leveraging our industrial strengths and continuing to deepen our partnership, according to a statement released by the Taiwanese president's office at the time. While Israeli officials have not commented publicly on the explosions, a U.S. official told the AP that Israel had briefed the U.S. about the operation Tuesday after its conclusion. American officials have said the U.S. had no prior knowledge of the operation and no involvement in it. So it's interesting that, if I'm understanding this right, and correct me if you guys have seen something to the contrary, but it looks like this is something that the Israelis haven't actually claimed responsibility for, but everyone has attributed it to them. Like most who have attributed it to them have done so very positively, strongly endorsing it. But the official narrative, as I'm reading it here, is that Hezbollah has accused them of it, has blamed them for it, and a U.S. official has said Israel talked to the U.S. about it, but Israel hasn't actually claimed responsibility. Back Consulting and its mysterious CEO. CBS News has asked Back Consulting and Budapest. To be clear, I don't think that Israel didn't do it. I'm saying I'm observing the fact that I think that it seems that they haven't actually claimed responsibility for it. CBS News has asked Back Consulting in Budapest to comment on where and how its devices are manufactured and sold, but had not received an answer either over the phone or via email by the time of publication. The company's LinkedIn profile does not mention manufacturing services, describing its work as business consulting and services. The company's listed CEO is Cristiana Barsoni Arcidiacono. Her personal LinkedIn profile says she's done work for a number of organizations, including work with the European Union Commission, UNESCO, and the International Atomic Energy Agency. Barsonia Arcidiacono has reposted on her LinkedIn profile conspiracy theories about Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and COVID-19 vaccines. She also reposted a video from a Turkish photographer that appeared to express support for the people of Gaza. In one post, Barsonia Arcidiacono claimed Back Consulting could help clients secure EU funding for green energy products. Some very interesting connections here. CBS News has reviewed business records that showed that she had registered another company under her name in France in the Paris suburb of Issy-les-Moulineaux. The documents describe the business as a company that, quote, specialized in the sector of business consulting and other activities. This is like the vaguest possible description you could give to a business. The company was registered in December of 2015 and dissolved in December of 2016, the records show. On her LinkedIn profile, she describes herself as working as a scientific and strategic advisor over a 12-year period from January 2012 to the present, and claims she's worked in Paris, Budapest, London, New York City, Africa, Peru, Argentina, Indonesia, and the Middle East. The AR924 pager model was advertised by Gold Apollo as a rugged device. They require a lithium battery, according to advertising of the product on Gold Apollo's website. The advertising has been removed from the Taiwanese company's website. So there's a lot of stuff getting pulled down. So lots of interesting connections being made here between the so-called blob and Taiwan and Israel and yeah. So I'm no like Israel Hezbollah relationship expert. I'm kind of vaguely aware of it. Not really concerned. Neither side is my concern. These people are more than welcome to do whatever they please to one another. I don't want to be involved and don't want to have to care about it. Well, let me cover some more of the details here before I give my full opinion. This account, by the way, I don't know if you guys follow this account, but during the recent hullabaloo about the hullabunga, this person revealed their loyalties, let's say. According to Sky News Arabia, Mossad was able to inject a compound of pentaerythritol tetranitrate, or PTN, into the batteries of the new encrypted pagers that Hezbollah began using around February before they even arrived in the hands of Hezbollah members, allowing them to remotely overheat and detonate the lithium battery within the device. Now from what I've seen, this isn't exactly correct. So this guy here, I thought this was interesting. He says, aligns to my hypothesis that this was a complex supply chain interdiction operation. It's pretty incredible. You need physical access to install explosives. You probably need a firmware update in order to have a specific number or code trigger the explosive. You need placement and access to distribute the devices to the right people. It's hard to fathom compromising the voltage controller or something to overheat the lithium-ion batteries as the attack vector, because the explosions look like shape charges directed toward the person wearing the pager. In addition, batteries burn, they don't explode. It's also hard to imagine a mass supply chain compromise due to the risk of the explosives being discovered and the bigger risk of a civilian accidentally being hurt. A just-in-time supply chain interdiction of pagers intended for delivery to specific targets, which would allow for physical compromise to insert shape charges, plus software update to use a code or number as the trigger, seems like the simplest explanation. Absolutely epic operation that blended cyber plus kinetic actions plus information warfare against an enemy. And I think all of this is just evaluating the bare facts of the operation. This, from what I've seen, this seems accurate to me. And it's genuinely, on an intelligence level, on an operational level, it's genuinely, if that is the true story, that's genuinely remarkable. So Iranian state media is reporting that Iran's ambassador to Lebanon, Mojtaba Amani, suffered extremely serious injuries to his eyes, leaving him almost completely blind as a result of today's pager attack. This is, I got to be careful showing some of these pictures. It's just interesting to contemplate the image implications of this, where this guy here is the Iranian ambassador to Lebanon, and he gets permanently blinded by having this pager explode, that ostensibly, the official story is that Israel, through Mossad, was able to interdict their supply chain and seed something that got right to them. Now, I'm pretty cynical about the from what I do know, and from what I do know of the way that these sorts of people operate, I don't find it surprising whatsoever that Mossad was able to interdict the supply chain for Hezbollah things. I don't find that surprising, really. Being able to do it completely undetected and orchestrate this whole thing the way they did, that's impressive. That's a in the spycraft world, that's an impressive accomplishment in terms of an operation. But this is the most profound aspect of it, is leaving aside the actual facts on the ground, just going with the general story here. This is massively humiliating. This is an absolutely epic humiliation to a culture of people who very much pride themselves on respect and self-image. This one's going to leave a mark in a literal sense and a figurative sense. So the fallout of this guy here, Ben Tel Aviv. Oh my goodness. This guy here, Ben Tel Aviv. So he's Ben in Tel Aviv. Israel will be mapping out injuries, hospital admissions, social media posts, electronic communications, news footage, and medical records, linking them all to people who had these pagers today. Forget the injuries and deaths. Israel just created a massive and growing trove of information about both known and previously unknown Hezbollah militants, as well as their supporters, partners, friends, family members, colleagues, workplaces, vehicles, and homes. They just created an incredibly dense and up-to-date social graph of an entire terrorist network across Lebanon as well as neighboring countries. It's incredible what they just did. Imagine being in a dark room with a massive Christmas tree in it. The tree has thousands of electric lights strewn all over it, but they're unlit because the wall plug is not plugged into the wall socket. Now plug it in. And I think he's exactly right. Last one here, Mario Knopfel says, American University of Beirut Hospital replaced pagers of staff days before explosions. Now, is this a coincidence? Is it not? I don't know. They reportedly took all pagers from its nurses and doctors about 10 days ago and replaced them, according to hospital employees, sourced from the Middle East Spectator. There was, I think, some extra information on here. Was it this tweet? Yeah, these pagers are designed to receive encrypted messages and signals, allowing the group to maintain communication without relying on traceable mobile networks. The devices reportedly malfunctioned and detonated, causing severe injuries. What it was, from what I've seen, again, just filtering through whatever facts seem to be available, hold everything at arm's length, hold it lightly. It seems that they had a message that was sent out ostensibly from a significant person, and when they viewed the message, it's what triggered the explosion. Now, my big takeaway on this is this opens a massive can of worms. We're seeing warfare, what is going to be the state of warfare, escalating. It starts off with them being able to do it because they're the ones who get away with everything. But frankly, it's been kind of silly to imagine that we would have a society that just didn't do these sorts of things. If you believe that you're in an existential conflict with another side, this isn't just politics, but these are like fundamental, we cannot exist on the same planet with each other types of conflicts. The idea that you wouldn't do something like this is kind of silly. Like, of course you would. If you see these people as an existential, direct threat to your existence, however cynically or not, this is the way that you're going to behave. Is it savage? Yeah. It's really fucking savage. But frankly, I think it's just a matter of time. It's been a matter of time. We've had this little interlude where spying and intelligence operations and warfare against each other is like done according to rules or something. But the idea of having like rules to warfare is kind of silly. You don't fight a war to fight according to rules. You fight a war to win. So the rule is whatever makes me win. The notion that isn't the case is very, very new within humanity. Go back 100 years to describe this sort of operation to the average decent person, and they'd be like, oh, wow, that's really clever. That's really impressive. What a fabulous way of utterly humiliating your enemy and getting a whole bunch of intel on them, hurting a bunch of them that are like the most ardent supporters. This seems like this is just the way that wars are fought. So the idea that we'd like crossed into some sort of a new age where this sort of thing doesn't happen was fanciful. Of course, this kind of thing is going to happen. This kind of thing is going to happen more. It's going to keep happening. Because there are battles that are happening that are reaching a fever pitch that are all existential in nature. We've had this, in reality, this narrative about like having no, like where violence, public violence is frowned upon and shamed and really like pushed out as much as possible. It actually creates more and more pretext for violence. And then what happens is that when it's time to get violent, we're actually kind of bad at being violent. We're not practiced in it. The people who are the most effective with their violence are the people who are the most fluent with it, that do it the most. So if as an entire species or as an entire society, we get out of practice with violence, we're not going to get less violence. We're going to get more and worse violence. On the micro scale, this would be like never letting little boys fight with each other. If you don't let little boys fight with each other, then eventually a little boy is going to become a big boy, and he's going to have never experienced a fight, and he's going to find himself in a place where he needs to fight, and he's not going to know what he's doing. And there's going to be much more of a potential for actually getting to that point because there is no threat of violence to prevent that from happening. When you can respond to an insult to your what do you call it? Like your honor. When you can respond to that with, all right, pistols at dawn, let's go. People are a lot less likely to mouth off. If you know that stealing is going to get your hand chopped off, people are a lot less likely to steal. If you know that raping or killing someone is going to get you publicly stoned in the square by the entire town, you're a lot less likely to rape or kill someone. The idea of violent punishment as a deterrent, or the idea that violent punishment couldn't be a deterrent, is the most egghead-brained thing you could possibly conceive of. To compare two realities, one where doing this thing gives you the possibility of experiencing violent deterrence, and the other world where doing this thing does not bring the possibility of violent deterrence. To look at those two worlds and say, oh, I think it's probably the less violent one is going to be the one that has less violence. The less violent deterrence, the less violence. No, it doesn't work that way. So this is the effect of the Longhouse. Having violence taken out of the public square. Having it discouraged. Like when two men are fighting each other and you get the woman who gets in the way, almost never does that make the fight end better for anyone. It just winds people up even more, and the woman's likely to get clocked. And most likely she's going to do someone else to step in, and it's going to start another fight on the side. I've seen enough internet videos to see how this works. Men need to be free to be violent. And there needs to be a socially accepted level of violence that is instantiated into the culture, like dueling or capital punishment, public capital punishment. Taking these things away from society doesn't make it better. It makes it worse. If like the two worlds here are capital punishment is something that's done impersonally and hidden away in a deep cave, where someone is strapped down to a table and has drugs pumped into them and melt from the inside, or they get electrocuted to death with a hood over their head. This isn't civilized. It's barbaric. You know what's civilized is firing squads. That's civilized. The violence is direct and personal and immediate and applied by the people who are directly affected. That's civilized. The way we manage violence in our civilization today, in our society today, is not civilized whatsoever. And that's why violence is constantly fomenting and building and building. There's going to be a release. There has to be a release. You get little micro releases. There's going to have to be some sort of big release. And the longer that it's forestalled, the longer that it's put off, the worse it's going to get, because this is how violence works. If you don't want violence, you have to embrace it. It's a paradox. So anyways, I see this and the former like Tom Clancy Black Ops enjoyer in me is kind of like, man, that's pretty fucking cool. Like being able to pull something like that off, this would make an amazing, you could make an amazing movie out of this. That's kind of my gut response to it. It's like, yeah, you guys just go fuck each other up. Leave me alone. Okay. Another video of our president. The beautiful man who will rule this country again. So this guy has a great story about the Trump family.
have an amazing story to tell you real quick about what President Trump's father, Fred Trump, did for myself, for my brother, for my sister, for my mother. 1974, my dad suffered a major heart attack. I went to the same school as Donald Trump, the Q Forest School. 3 days after my father's burial, there was a knock on the door one school morning, 7 a.m. I answered the door. It's a distinguished gentleman. I was 10 years old. My father just died. The gentleman said, "Kid, call your mom." I called my mom from upstairs. She came down. Gentleman said to my mom, "I am Fred Trump, Donald's father." And my mom says, "Yes, I know Donald went to the Q Forest School." And Mr. Fred Trump said to my mom, "Yes, Mrs. Shrem, very sorry about Joseph's death. And what you don't know is I'm still on the board of trustees at the Q Forest School. And this morning, I let Headmaster Mr. Philip Rogers know that from this day forward, myself, Fred Trump, out of my own pocket, is going to pay for your 3 children's tuition because I don't want the kids have to go back into the public school system." And the tuition in 1974 was $2,500 per child, $7,500, which is about $80,000, $100,000 in today's money. And who would do that except the President Trump's father? The fruit doesn't fall far from the tree, and they give the Trump family grief. The Trump family is a wonderful family, the entire family, sorry. And who else? Can you picture Joseph Biden or Kamala Harris doing that? No. All they care about is buying another mansion. I'm going to tell you, the Trump family is wonderful. I love you, Donald. I wish I could shake your hand. It was my mother's last dying wish to shake your hand and to thank your father, Fred Trump, for what he did for us kids in 1974 in Forest Hills, New York. I love you, President.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Someone's cutting onions in here. You know, it's wild to think that in the future, the Trump name is going to go down as legendary. One of the greatest Americans of all time. He has his foibles. He has his you know, whatever you want to ding him on. But the family is just good-hearted German stock. I've got a couple more.
We can do all of this and more, but patriotic New Yorkers must get your asses out to vote. Gotta get up. Gotta get up. Harry, get up, Harry. Harry, get your fat ass out of the couch. You're gonna vote for Trump today, Harry. Get up, Harry. Come on, let's go. Let's go, Harry. We can do all of this and more.
We hear that
but
line again.
Get up. Get up. Harry, get up, Harry. Harry, get your fat ass out of the couch. You're going to vote for Trump today, Harry.
Harry, get your fat ass out of the couch. You're going to vote for Trump today. I need this on a shirt. Get your fat ass out of the couch. You're going to vote for Trump today. You know what we need to do is we need to take the libs and we need to Clockwork Orange them with this video, just playing on repeat over and over and over again. And look at him. Ends his rally to Nessun Dorma. And of course, he's got to come out here and conduct it himself. He's got just an unfathomable amount of energy for any man, much less an almost 80-year-old man. So I've been holding on to this tweet for about a week now from good poster Revenant, waiting to see if this was going to happen, because I kind of had a feeling it was. He says, Trump and Vance should personally go to Springfield, Ohio with camera crews, ride around town, talk to locals about the influx of Haitians, live stream it all. Simulcast on X, Rumble, and YouTube. Forget the media. Their entire operation is fraudulent. Force their hand. I saw this and I was like, oh God, yes, please. And what do you know?
Aurora. Then I'm going to Aurora. You may never see me again, but that's okay. Got to do what I got to do. Whatever happened to Trump? Well, he never got out of Springfield. I'm leading in Ohio by like 15 points, a lot. And we're going to take care of Ohio. And we're going to take care of Colorado. And we're going to take care of every single state in the union. They're all under siege. A lot of people don't talk about. But think of this. So the mayor of Springfield, and I think he's a very nice person, but instead of saying we're getting them all out, then
he's going. Here's what Thomas 777 had to say about it. He said, this is the correct play. It's what actual campaigning looks like. Simply existing and repeating over and over again that your op is a bad man through legacy media networks does not cut it. Anyone who thinks the latter translates to actual votes is basic AF. Trump hustles 24/7. Anyone claiming he's low energy is talking literal shit. This is textbook correct campaigning. He's got some good replies down in here, too. This mystery school dropout says, Kamala ads show Trump in front of huge crowds, then cut to her in front of a green screen with a fake crowd behind her. It's an amazing cell phone. And Thomas said, these are the same fools who decided Mrs. Clinton is a really, really great candidate who is beloved by moderate voters and liberals alike. They're delusional subnormals who think low-rent con men or idiots like closet case James Carville have some kind of Madden-esque instinct for the game. Pat O'Sullivan says, but they win. And he says, yeah, obviously Hillary was a great candidate, and they win owing to a marvelous ability to index with voters. Bill Clinton also managed to duck a rape charge and stay out of prison. I guess we all better emulate him and his dope winning style. Pat O'Sullivan says, I hate that they win. I hate their power over us. And Thomas says, Caesar has as much power over you as you give him, unless you're posting this comment from prison, which I doubt is the case. The point, my point, obviously, is that fixing elections with the most idiotic and transparently corrupt methods imaginable to install a drooling idiot like Biden the American Chernenko is only winning in the most corrupt and basic sense imaginable. It's like winning at chess by throwing the board across the room and scattering the pieces so as to preclude checkmate. Politics isn't a matter of arresting everybody who engages in thought crime and canceling due process when you can't finesse outcomes. This is, in fact, losing writ large. And if you don't understand this, you don't understand the game. Like most things, there's precedent of a relevant sort in the Bible for this. The Roman Empire and the Pharisees didn't win by hosting a show trial and then executing Christ. The man is preaching wisdom. Based Thomas. MLK Ultra, great name, says, I'm like half his age with half the motor. What the fuck? DJT is nonstop. And Thomas says, this is after years of lawfare and jeopardy and getting shot. But he's supposedly low energy and a shadow of 2016. I don't know what other fools saw in 2016 that I didn't. Trump was actually all kind of foobar in that campaign. He didn't know what the fuck he was doing. He's way, way more polished now. Fact people don't get all excited about dude being a fresh brand is on them. Staying in the media cycle beyond a few days is a miracle at present. Trump has been front and center for a decade. It's insane. It's like saying Brady was a subpar quarterback. Trump is Mr. Media. I'm not some huge Trump fan, by the way. I like Trump, but he's certainly not my idea of a great candidate, and I got real problems with his priorities and commitments. You look like a hater jagoff, though, or a brainwashed fuckhead if you shit-talk him in the ways I just indicated. I could read or listen to Thomas talk about literally anything. MLK Ultra says, I foresee them taking another shot at DJT and missing because the proxies in their loser portfolio aren't made for that kind of wet work. That could change, though. And Thomas said, if Trump were assassinated, it would be disastrous. I don't think there's a grand conspiracy to whack Trump. I think in the incident months back where he was actually hit, there's absolutely a cover-up underway, but I don't believe the deep state is trying to whack him. They'd be going about it differently, and the consequences in terms of kinetic reaction would be unmanageable. I think that was all that I had from him on this. Actually, no, there's a little bit more here. So John Anderton says, what do you think of the notion that polls accurately capture voter turnout? Early signs point to a reversion to lower average 2024 turnout. Barring mass ballot printing, this reduces any early D margins, and the GOP will know how many ballots to bank by the end of election night. And Thomas says polls going back to the Gallup days have literally never been accurate nor premised on good faith. Robert Cahaley explained the flaws in this methodology. If you believe some random dumbass lady like Harris can become a relevant candidate by just existing, or that decades-long punchline Joe Biden outperformed FDR and Reagan, I don't know what to tell you. Suggesting polls are accurate is like saying CNN is telling the truth. It's moot anyways on grounds actual elections have been done away with. Unauthenticated ballot harvesting, often by direct solicitation over months, isn't an election. It's a public opinion poll with flawed metrics. Mr. Mondale was preferred over Mr. Reagan by 49% of those polled from June 25 to 28, while the president was preferred by 43%. This is a quote from Kennedy and Mondale barely lead Reagan. And of course, this is how that election actually turned out. We got some more on polls here in a little bit, but first we have to talk about Gavin Newscum and his war against memes. Do me a favor and hit the like button. We got 96 watching and 48 likes, so we're still at 50-50. Let's push that up. These are rookie numbers. You got to get them up, folks. Thank you for being here and watching with me. Gavin Newsom. July 28, Elon retweeted an altered Kamala Harris campaign ad. In the video, Harris seemingly exposes herself as an incompetent candidate for president. The origin of the video isn't known yet. We covered this here on the show. Mr. Reagan was the one who had made the video, and Elon tweeted it out. And Gavin Newsom lost his shit. Manipulating a voice in an ad like this one should be illegal. I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure it is. And he was telling the truth. He says, I just signed a bill to make this illegal in the state of California. You can no longer knowingly distribute an ad or other election communications that contain materially deceptive content, including deep fakes. Be very interested to see the, if I lived in California, I would be going to see how they define these things, because this is a pretty broad definition. But I don't live in California, so I don't care. What I do think is funny is that Elon is just dunking his nuts on him. Elon says the governor of California just made this parody video illegal in violation of the Constitution of the United States. Would be a shame if it went viral. 45.9 million views. So this is the original video. I'll play this for you guys.
I, Kamala Harris, am your Democrat candidate for president because Joe Biden finally exposed his senility of the debate. Thanks, Joe. I was selected because I am the ultimate diversity hire. I'm both a woman and a person of color. So if you criticize anything I say, you're both sexist and racist. I may not know the first thing about running the country, but remember, that's a good thing if you're a deep state puppet. I had 4 years under the tutelage of the ultimate deep state puppet, a wonderful mentor, Joe Biden. Joe taught me rule number 1, carefully hide your total incompetence. I take insignificant things and I discuss them as if they're significant. And I believe that exploring the significance of the insignificant is in itself significant.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time, and there is such great significance to the passage of time.
Another trick.
The most shocking part of the whole video is actually the part that's not edited. The edited parts of her actually are too coherent and thoughtful. Like even the whole thing about significance, like that actually made some sense. It wasn't complete nonsense. But this whole passage of time stuff is inane. How, like, does she have to set a reminder on her watch to remember to breathe? I don't know how she goes through the day and functions.
Just trying to sound black. I pretend to celebrate Kwanzaa, and in my speeches, I always do my best Barack Obama impression. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And okay, look, maybe my work addressing the root causes of the border crisis were catastrophic, but my knowledge of international politics is truly shocking.
The United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. It is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
And just remember, when voting this November, it is important to see what can be, unburdened by what has been. And by what has been, I mean Joe Biden. You think the country went to shit over the past 4 years? You ain't seen nothing yet.
Oh. So shout out to Mr. Reagan for that. And the Babylon Bee has now weighed in. I don't know how many publications have disgraced themselves as much over the last couple of years as the Babylon Bee, but occasionally they get one. They get a good one.
Hi, I'm Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. This is a message for the people of America, given in my authentically recorded, non-AI voice. Thanks to my leadership over the last several years, California has become a world leader in extremist, left-wing governance. My policies were so effective that almost 1 million people are now fleeing the state every year. We even ran out of U-Hauls. During the COVID pandemic, I locked everyone in their homes and shut down businesses for months. Not the French Laundry, though. That's my favorite restaurant. Last year, I cleaned up the dangerous, messy streets of San Francisco, because Chinese Communist President Xi was coming, and I really wanted to impress him. He's my boss, after all. This year, I signed legislation that allows me to take custody of your kid if you refuse to give him artificial hormones and chop off his genitals. Because if you don't do that, you're a bigot, and bigots shouldn't be allowed to have kids. I've also led the way in green energy by banning all cars that don't run on electricity. Then I banned almost all the electricity. This is smart leadership. On my watch, the cost of living and homelessness have skyrocketed. Schools are failing. Drug dealers and human traffickers are pouring across the border. And poop has covered the sidewalks of San Francisco. This is the positive, joyful vision we offer as Democrats. That's why I'm enthusiastically endorsing Kamala Harris for president in 2024. She'll do to the country everything I did in California. Anyway, I'm California Governor Gavin Newsom, and I approve this 100% real message, which is a recording of my voice without the assistance of any AI whatsoever. This isn't a deep fake, and you can rest assured that it isn't, because I just signed an unconstitutional law outlawing deep fakes. No one would dare violate it. Thank you, and science bless America.
So this one's up to 20 million views. Yeah, I'd like to see this one actually run. I wonder if there's some organization that could actually get this ad run on any sort of major platform, or if this is as big as we can get it. Rare W for the Babylon Bee. Let's see if they can piss it away next Easter. I bet you it's not going to take him till Easter. Colin Rush says Newscum made himself a big target. The meme war will end his career. Yeah, I very well could. It ain't looking good. He's just a creep. And I'll remind you guys that we're going to take back California, and we're going to dump the communists in the Pacific. It's God's land. So here's quite a revelation. Former Chief Border Patrol agent Aaron Heitke was ordered by Biden and Harris to cover up the disaster at the border.
In San Diego, we had an exponential increase in significant interest aliens. These are aliens with significant ties to terrorism. Prior to this administration, the San Diego sector averaged 10 to 15 SIA arrests per year. Once word was out the border was far easier to cross, San Diego went to over 100 SIAs in 2022, well over that in 2023, and even more than that registered this year. These are only the ones we caught. At the time, I was told I could not release any information on this increase in SIAs or mention any of the arrests. The administration was trying to convince the public there was no threat at the border. Fentanyl is another issue. The San Diego area sees between 80 and 90% of the methamphetamine and fentanyl seizures annually for our entire country. With little enforcement at the border, these drugs were coming through en masse. During my last year in San Diego, the price for a single pill of fentanyl, for example, went from $10 to 25 cents. To make matters worse, during 2022 and 23, I had to shut down San Diego traffic checkpoints, which are critical for drug interdiction, because the resources had been diverted to the process and release mission. The large numbers also had and still have a negative impact on the San Diego community. I had to release illegal aliens by the hundreds each day into communities who could not support them. To quiet the problem, 2 flights a week were provided from San Diego to Texas. These flights simply brought aliens that would have been released in San Diego over to Texas. Each flight cost approximately $150,000. This was the administration's way to try and quiet the border-wide crisis.
Just the absolute definition of organized crime. And the rhetoric from the the impending counter elite is not softening on this issue at all. They're stepping it up, actually. It's getting more and more intense. Mass deportations are being memed into the popular consciousness. Everyone says, "Oh, there's no will for it. It's never going to happen. Nobody actually wants it." There's a lot of people who really want it, who are really staking a lot on getting it. And what it's becoming is the whole immigration network is the heart of organized crime. That is the heart of the regime. So if you want to go to war with the regime, you have to go to war with the immigration issue. They've put it up as their biggest shield. So if you want to take them down, you have to take it down. Okay. So someone's tracking the cell phones that go to all of the Kamala rallies. 90% have been to the last two, and 54% were at Arizona and Georgia. It's all the same people. Her support is entirely contrived.
We're going to get to some data from the Kamala rally.
5,003 mobile devices at Kamala Harris's rally in Charlotte, North Carolina on Thursday afternoon. It appears over 3,600 came from Georgia, mainly Atlanta, Georgia, and approximately 720 from Savannah, Georgia. So that's a North Carolina rally with almost 80% of the attendees being from Georgia.
After you do the math, that's only 600 or so local people from North Carolina that attended. That's all who shows up, and you're planning to what, get 80-something million votes again? Something ain't right. And then all these people come from buses, and it's kind of weird because at the Trump events, you don't really have like organized buses like that. People just kind of show up and park on their own. But at the Kamala rally, there's just these lines of buses at every event, which is weird. And a lot of the people are also the same people that attend multiple rallies. Can you read those tweets?
Any of the same ones from previous events, because this guy's tracking the cell phones, I guess, and he says 90% have been to 3+ rallies, 54% were even at Arizona and Nevada rallies.
So it's all the same people. And as we've said in the show before, Kamala's support is all fake. Yeah. It's all contrived. It's not very real. And that seems to be the proof.
It's not all. Obviously, everybody here has a relative or a person who like, oh, I'm voting for Kamala. I can't stand Trump. But there's a difference between voting against Trump and then going to a Kamala Harris rally where she's going to do a black accent.
90% fake. Yeah. You convinced me. 90% fake.
Euthanasia said they're experienced at busing. Josh Ham says JD Vance talked about deporting at least 25 million illegals with Tucker. It's super mainstream, way past memes. Yeah, that conversation, I'm going to play one clip from that conversation here before we get to the end of the show. But it's only like 40 minutes long. Definitely go listen to it. If you haven't, JD Vance just on Tucker. The dude's exhausted. You could tell he is wiped out. He's pushing through these interviews, doing well. He's got his dog there. He has to keep telling his dog to lay down and chill out. And he's getting better and better. Every single conversation I hear with him, he's even more well-spoken and punchy and on message. Just easily the best prominent politician that I've seen in my life. There's no question at all. Combination of fluency and intelligence and energy and messaging and impact. Easily the best. Could not have dreamed he would be as good as he has been. And he's talking about how in that conversation, maybe I'll do that. Maybe that'll be part of tomorrow's show. We'll just go through that conversation because they talk about the immigration issue at length. They talk about the polling, which is the clip that I have pulled up here, and he gets it. He knows exactly what's going on, and that the big issue here is that this isn't just like, oh, get elected and then we're all hunky-dory. He's already talking about what they have to do after they get elected. That's when the real battle actually begins. Can I describe to you just how good it is to hear someone talking like that? Is it maybe it's just all talk. Maybe they're just shooting it up our ass for the fun of it, and yeah, possibly, of course. Thank you, Black Pillars. But man, there's no sign of that whatsoever. This is exactly what I would want my leadership saying and doing in this situation right now. This is exactly the rhetoric that I would want to hear from them. So back to Elon Musk. This is an interesting little phrase. Competence is underrated. Quote tweeting Brendan Carr, who's the commissioner of the FCC, says new senators write Vice President Kamala Harris over her mismanagement of a $42 billion program to expand internet. After 1,038 days, quote, not a single person has been connected to the internet using the $42.45 billion. So almost $43 billion was set aside 3.5 years ago, was dedicated to this project, and not a single person has been connected to the internet using $43 billion. Here's Commissioner Carr himself describing this. I'm going to speed it up a little bit.
I've had the privilege of serving as a commissioner on the FCC for over 7 years now. Before that, I served as the agency's general counsel after first joining the FCC as a staffer back in 2012. My primary focus has been ensuring that every American has a fair shot at next-generation connectivity. In my view, there's no better way to do a job in Washington than to get outside the Beltway and see firsthand the challenges ahead. That's why I spent time in nearly every state over the past few years, meeting with broadband builders, local leaders, and community members alike. Along the way, I've stood on top of a 2,000-foot broadcast tower with tower crews. I've been a mile below ground to see a fiber build connecting an underground research lab. I've visited with crews stringing fiber along the Arctic Ocean in Utqiagvik, Alaska, America's northernmost point. And I've been on the Gulf Coast with teams as they restored service after hurricanes in Florida. In every community, I've heard about the opportunity that comes with a high-speed connection. And that's why I was pleased when a bipartisan consensus emerged to provide the support necessary to end the digital divide. The most significant of those efforts is a $42 billion initiative known as BEAD. But unfortunately, BEAD is a program that has gone off the rails. Here's how. In 2021, Vice President Harris agreed to lead the administration's signature $42 billion effort to extend internet service to millions of Americans. It's now been 1,039 days since that program was enacted. After all of that time, not one person has been connected to the internet. Not one home, not one business. Not even one shovel worth of dirt has been turned. And it gets worse. No infrastructure bills will even start until sometime next year at the earliest, and in many cases, not until 2026. This makes Vice President Harris's $42 billion initiative the slowest moving federal broadband deployment program in recent history. With Vice President Harris at the helm, Politico recently reported on the, quote, frustration in finger pointing that defined the program's, quote, messy, delayed rollout. One state broadband official described, quote, a chaotic implementation environment, dysfunction, delays. She added that the administration, quote, has provided either no guidance, guidance given too late, or guidance changing midstream. The administration, she said, is slowing states down. So what has the administration been doing over the last 1,039 days instead of connecting Americans? It's been advancing a wish list of progressive policy goals. The $42 billion program led by Vice President Harris is being used to push a climate change agenda, DEI requirements, price controls, preferences for government-run networks, and rules that will lead to wasteful overbuilding. All of this will leave rural communities behind. Frankly, it would not be the only time the Biden-Harris administration has left rural America behind. In 2020, the FCC secured a commitment from Starlink to provide internet to 640.
Hold on a second. Oh, that's all her hair. I thought this chick had her like jacket matched to her hair. And I was like, man, that is some dedication. Imagine showing this shot right here to a to, I don't know, Richard Nixon 40 years ago. Imagine showing him this, that this is what this hearing would look like. And let's take in all the little details here.
Harris administration has left rural America behind. In 2020, the FCC secured a commitment from Starlink to provide internet to 640,000 homes and businesses for about $1,300 per location in federal support. But the government revoked that award last year after President Biden gave agencies the green light to go after Musk. The administration is now spending dollars on the penny to connect locations.
To make this clear, there is no way to frame this apart from the Biden administration is punishing rural Americans because they're ass mad about Elon Musk. That's the summation of all of this. And it's not just rural Americans. Rural Americans are most affected. But we're all footing this bill. This is why I said, like, Kamala's not going to be hurting from money. Because that's where all of this money is going. This money laundering scheme that they've put together is astronomical. Trillions of dollars flowing in all sorts of different directions with all these funnels to direct them into the NGO networks for all these different operations. Yeah, dollars on the penny.
The green light to go after Musk. The administration is now spending dollars on the penny to connect locations through its own initiatives. Senator Cruz released a report identifying entire projects where the administration is now spending over $100,000 per location for internet. So here's the bottom line. Absent major reforms, Vice President Harris's $42 billion program is wired to fail. It's time to correct course. Get rid of all the extraneous political goals and focus on quickly connecting Americans. In closing, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to testify. I look forward to your questions.
$100,000 per person. And it was $1,300 in the deal with Starlink, which is going to pay Starlink pretty well, it sounds like. $1,300 a person. It's going to be vastly cheaper for the government and pay Starlink really well. Would have worked out great for everyone. These are like just little things. Just a little drop in the bucket that could drastically change the lives of a lot of people. Like being able to get access to Starlink all over, covering all the different rural areas, would have a massive effect. There'd be negative effects of it, obviously. There's a bit of a Trojan horse aspect to it, of course, but I mean, this is baked in. There's massive changes that can be made very easily by simply eliminating specific people from specific positions and pushing through specific projects like this one. Another interesting, a billionaire has weighed in. Hedge fund billionaire John Paulson plans to pull money if Kamala wins election. Billionaire hedge fund manager John Paulson announced that he would withdraw his investments from the market and move into cash and gold if Kamala wins the presidential election. Now, do I think he would actually do that? Not really. I think he might do it to some degree, but not quite as much as it's being portrayed here. What's significant about this is that he's publicly saying this. Paulson, whose hedge fund manages an estimated $9 billion across various sectors, it's kind of a little guy, voiced concerns about Kamala Harris's proposed economic policies. These include increasing the corporate tax rate, raising the capital gains tax, and introducing a 25% tax on unrealized gains for wealthy individuals. He warned these policies could lead to mass selling and market crashes, predicting a quick recession if enacted. And Elon Musk highlighted this and said Buffett is already preparing for this outcome, which is an interesting signal. So we've got a billionaire weighing in on a billionaire regarding a story about another billionaire. Now, let's see here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 3 quick clips here, 4 clips related to Kamala. This first one here is going to be difficult to, you guys are not going to believe what you hear, and yet you will.
But Kamala Harris would be just the opposite. Why? Because she's an inspiration. Not only is she positive and does she bring hope and optimism, but as a black woman, the product of a mixed marriage, she will inspire millions of people throughout the world. Our credibility as a nation, that we would be able to allow, our country is so great that we're allowed a woman like that to become the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States. That is going to send a powerful message all over the world. People like Vladimir Putin are going to say, hey, wait a minute. These guys, they truly have a democratic country. They truly are representative. They truly are fighting for all their people. And Kamala Harris is a manifestation of that. But Kamala Harris would be just...
I already listened to it, and it still cracks me up. Oh, Vladimir Putin is going to be like, oh my goodness, they truly represent all of their people. Oh, I'm quaking in my boots. I want to see... to be a fly on the wall when someone shows this clip to Vlad. He's going to react the way I just did. Just absolutely cackling. There's no way that this guy actually believes this. I cannot comprehend a world where this guy actually believes this and isn't just desperately glazing her to make this happen. This is insane. MSNBC guest says Putin will be deterred by Kamala Harris because she's the product of a mixed marriage. MSNBC host, wow. Putin is shitting himself at the thought of being nagged at by a black woman. Honestly, probably man to man, he would be much happier with Trump just because he could have a conversation with someone without having to be nagged at by a drunk black woman. Here's another clip of her. Look at how just rough she looks.
I was the first person to be a woman attorney general.
Her eyes are all kind of glazed over. Her hair's looking funky. Face is stretched tight. She is an extremely stressed out, unhappy person.
California. I was the first woman to be elected district attorney of San Francisco. I was the first person of color to be elected attorney general of California. Whatever. First. Welcome to the Role Model Club. It's tough. Being a part of the Role Model Club means being in a room where sometimes you may be the only person who has had the experiences you've had. She
looks like she's trying not to cry. Some of the micro expressions in here. This woman is afraid. It is all over her face. She's on something, and she is stressed the hell out. She does not want to be president. There is no way. Look who else is weighing in his own way.
There's been quite an influx across the borders, and that has actually been one of the things that's allowed unemployment rate to rise.
That's a very strong political statement coming from Jerome Powell. This is another opportunity for me to say, go listen to the conversation between Stormy Waters and Jason on the 2-Hit podcast. If you want to know a little bit more about where Jerome Powell's mind is at. And then look at this. So Kamala finally had her interview with the National Association of Black Journalists. And look what happened at the end of it. Watch their faces. That is... even I am struck by just how bad she is at this. The little, dismissive wave to the audience, and she could not get out of there fast enough. All right, fuck off, you guys. I'm out of here. Man, she makes Hillary Clinton look charismatic. And then these faces. What just happened? She looks up at him. Oh, man. I'm not going to read that one out loud. I'm already giving YouTube enough reasons to look at me. Yes, that dismissive wave says it all. Ian Carroll, that's 4K footage of never meeting your heroes happening before our eyes. Yes. She is just plummeting. So, big news from the Teamsters union. They announced that they will not endorse anyone for president after their member polling gave Donald Trump an overwhelming lead over Kamala Harris. So not only did they announce that they're not endorsing anyone, which is a de facto Trump endorsement and everyone knows it, they also released the polling from their members. So very clearly the leadership and the members are not on the same page, but the leadership knows enough to know that they need to cut losses. And I think this is probably not the first, but it's a business decision, and I think we're going to see more. There's a lot of different institutions that, as things progress forward and the Harris campaign gets worse and worse and the Trump campaign gets better and better, you're going to get a lot of people who are loyal, ostensibly loyal DNC patronage members who are going to nope their way out just like the Teamsters union did. Yeah, the union leadership probably does not want to do this, but Trump at 60% is just, yeah, you're not going to maintain your organization. You're not going to maintain your leadership positions if you come out and endorse Kamala Harris explicitly with the members polling like this. This decision comes just 2 days after union leaders and members met privately with Kamala Harris, who was apparently unsuccessful in winning some of them over. This is the first time in about 3 decades that the Teamsters will not endorse a candidate. Quote, a blow to the Democratic Party, as reported by the WAPO. Quote, the Teamsters have a strong presence in battleground states and could play an outsized role in the election, WAPO reports. Video below is of Teamsters President Sean O'Brien earlier this month.
Whatever the critics out there, and they're very few in the leadership, whenever I get an opportunity to highlight the American worker, especially the Teamster worker, I'm going to take any and all venue. We asked both conventions respectively at the same time, and the Republican National Convention immediately responded to us, didn't try and edit any of our messages, and I was hopeful that the Democrats would do the same, but they didn't. I'm not upset about it, but I can tell you this, my rank and file members who have been lifelong Democrats are not happy about it.
Yeah, I know there were some members of the union who spoke, but that's not the same as having the leader of the organization speak. Very quickly, did you choose to speak at the Republican convention, which is a pretty unusual move for a union leader, because you feel that Trump has been more pro-labor than past Republican nominees?
No, not at all. I spoke there because it was the ability to highlight how important we are. It was the ability to call out the people, the corporate elitists, who forget who built this country, the American workers. You know, people like to, have their own opinions on why we were there, but I was there to talk about the American workers. It wasn't an endorsement for any and all Republicans. It was strictly a message about how important and how valuable we are, and to let the people know that fight us every day, that we're not going away.
I don't think I would want to wind up in a back alley with this guy. I kind of feel like he carries some brass knuckles around with him. So, of course, Elon has to signal boost interesting things, which I love. I love his little wow or interesting or or exclamation point or thinking emoji when he wants to highlight particular things to guide the narrative along. But this is interesting. So the union member poll in June, Biden was 44% and Trump was 36%. Now, Trump's at 58% and Harris is at 31%. So cooing Biden and replacing him with Harris was not a productive move on their behalf. Here's the competency crisis come home to roost. The total numbers here are, you've got 89% here, and then, what is this, 80%? So if I'm doing the math here correctly, there was a lot more third-party interest before, And I wonder if this is a product of RFK joining forces with Trump, or if it's just people now are there's just much more people who are like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with that bitch. I was kind of like, whatever between Trump and Biden, but with her, no, give me Trump. Without support from union members, Democrats are toast. This is major, says End Wokeness. And then we get I would say this was the quote of the year, if not for the obvious entry for quote of the year, which is they're eating the dogs. But this was the spokesperson for the Biden-Harris administration. This is the professional talker, the person who is supposed to talk and market for them, deliver their messages. And she delivered it loud and clear.
The union also put out its internal polling that showed that there was a pretty wide margin of rank-and-file membership that supported former President Donald Trump. To what extent is that a referendum on the work of this administration?
Look, I'm not going to speak to their poll. I'm not going to speak to the rank and file. Look, it is. We're talking about a 2024, obviously, an election that is just a few weeks away. I can't speak to that. I can't speak to their decision to endorse, not endorse.
The union also.
Good God. I mean, you don't have to hear her talk to tell that she's probably very bad at her job. But holy crap. Imagine being the press secretary and saying, I'm not going to speak to the rank and file. Just the most catastrophic Freudian slip of all time. Completely, they are cratering. She looks fed up. She looks like she doesn't want to have any part to do with this anymore. She's done. She's ready to cede her position to Megyn Kelly. You can see it in her eye. So head Rasmussen pollster Mark Mitchell reveals imminent collapse for Kamala's campaign next week. This from Benny Johnson.
You have here's the dial. I know you have here's the dial. I know you called for this, so here we go. Best production team on the internet, Mark. Got to tell you, man, we're gunsmoke over here, man. We're hot as a pistol. So Pennsylvania numbers coming out yesterday and today. I'm seeing that, and I think the takeaway there is that Harris has had her lead eroded pretty significantly. Was this Suffolk poll, I believe?
Yeah, I think they got a leftward slant too. I've been looking at the Pennsylvania polling. Insider Advantage just came out with Trump +2. Mm-hmm. We pulled it back in the beginning of the middle of August and had it statistical tie. And so I think there's rightward movement in Pennsylvania. We are literally pulling the trigger on new polls today or tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So next week we should have new Pennsylvania numbers. Look, Trafalgar's got Trump up 2 in Pennsylvania. I expect we're going to be in that vicinity. Pennsylvania is a must-win state. It's looking really bad for Kamala Harris. Our new polls in Pennsylvania, as well as these ones that just dropped, might even start to change the betting odds in Pennsylvania, because I still think they slightly favor Kamala Harris. And then the betting odds will start to go because Pennsylvania is so pivotal. The narrative is going to, in my opinion, probably next week be that Kamala Harris is starting to lose. Not just Nate Silver and Mark Mitchell and a few of these other individual pollsters, like in a way that they can't escape in the mainstream media. At least that's what it looks like.
Well, you were right. You were right the first time you came on the program. I mean, you nailed it, man. And so it's like the closest we can do to having a crystal ball. And so we say thank you, Mark. I mean, obviously we have Peter Thiel doing an interview last week with the All In podcast saying if it's close enough, they'll try and steal it. And that's Peter Thiel. He's smarter than us. But I mean, with Donald Trump winning the popular vote, that's not close at all, actually.
Yeah,
that's not close. Right?
And listen, I know you're putting this on YouTube, so I'll limit what I say. I think people are very suspicious. 66% of voters think the outcome of this election will be affected by cheating. And there is a lot of attention on Pennsylvania right now.
66. Listen to this.
I think people are very suspicious. 66% of voters think the outcome of this election will be affected by cheating.
66% of voters think the outcome will be decided by cheating. Damn.
And there is a lot of attention on Pennsylvania right now.
Wow. Yeah. Obviously for good reason. And it sounds like there's been some decent upholdings in the Supreme Court over mail-in ballots and so on. So I guess we'll keep watching. Mark, please come back. Please, producers, I'll say this live. Book Mark weekly so that you can just come in. We'll just do your own segment and then we can come in and give the updates, because I think it's really, really instructive.
I love it. There's 3 months out of every 4 years where people love numbers, so I'm there for it.
I'm going to stick to my prediction that I think that the election is not going to be November 5. The election is going to be November 5 to January 20-ish, maybe more like February 5, somewhere in that time frame. And I think it's going to be decided in the courts. I would say right now that I'm like 60% that's what's going to happen, and 35% that it's going to be just a clean Trump sweep, and then like 5% that it's not. I just can't. I can't see if 66% of voters think that the election will be decided by cheating, even if it was 40%. Like we're not going to trust the polls, so let's back it off a little bit. Let's say 40% of the electorate thinks that the election is going to be defined by cheating. Do you realize how significant of a change that is from 2020? Suggesting that there could be election fraud was hardly, you couldn't even do it in polite society then. Now it's just kind of the mainstream expectation, and all of the people are talking like there's going to be something like that. It's just generally accepted that there's cheating. That's a tremendous amount if you're talking elite representation who think that there's cheating. And now you've got the common man overwhelmingly thinks that there's cheating. So if you want America to maintain itself as an economic zone, if you want America to have any sort of, if you want people to believe in the system and buy into it, then there's only one way that this can go. That's why I think the closer and closer we get, we're going to see more and more people, core DNC constituencies, that are going to just, it's like a game of chicken, and they're just going to bail. They're just going to bail out. That's why I think it's actually conceivable, not completely improbable, not probable, but not completely improbable, that it could be just a straight up Trump victory. Just straight away. Where it comes right down to the wire and then people just pull out. Remember that Trump issued that warning that anybody who's caught, if he wins, anybody who's caught or affiliated with anybody doing anything related to election fortification is going to have the absolute book thrown at them. And there's clearly popular support for that. There's going to be people who think twice about playing the role that they were planning on playing. And it doesn't take a lot of people like that for the whole thing to just kind of fall apart. So, who knows? The outcome is clearly unknown, and there's no way we're going to know it anytime soon. But it's easily the most fascinating election cycle of my life, which is saying something because we've had some really fascinating election cycles lately. So here's some quotes from, or some of the conversation from J.D. Vance talking to Tucker about the polls.
The same people who put those public opinion polls together are the same people who say, for example, that Donald Trump was going to lose Wisconsin by 17 points. Remember that? 3 days before the 2020 election, Donald Trump was supposed to lose Wisconsin by 17 points. And set to the side all of the debates about what happened in 2020, Wisconsin was basically a tied election. So these guys use public polls, they use the media, not even just to manipulate public opinion, but to manipulate our leadership about what public opinion actually says.
So how does that happen? So those polls are fake, is what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely, they're fake. They're absolutely fake. And we see this, I mean, again, this is like very nerdy, but let's go down this polling rabbit hole, okay? So a friend of mine, I think, is the best pollster in America. Every race I've ever seen him poll, he's way better than anybody else, okay? So good pollster versus a standard media pollster. Tony Fabrizio, great guy, he's the president's pollster, okay? Take a standard media poll and ask yourself, what are they doing? Those polls are all conducted by what's called online panels. In other words, they have a group of people that they go to again and again and again. They ask their opinion. Well, who are the people who are going to respond aggressively to online panels about what they feel about every issue of the day? A bunch of highly engaged, typically far left, typically people with professional degrees, people who are not representative of the American people at large, right? Meanwhile, most Americans are trying to pay their mortgage and trying to take care of their kids and trying to do all the things that are necessary to live a life in this country. And they're not answering the phone when a pollster picks up. So if you actually look at the good pollsters, they're telling you a radically different story because they're talking to a representative sample of the United States. And the fake media pollsters are talking to a very narrow slice of the United States. And again, they're trying to sell us a story. And it's not just, this is not primarily to manipulate the American people, I think it's to manipulate us, meaning elected officials. Because I've sat in lunches with a number of my colleagues who will say, look at this poll and look how Americans are responding to this or that issue. And then you realize that that exact same poll was wildly inaccurate 2 years ago. Why are you making your judgments about what the American people believe based on some poll? And oh, by the way, why don't you express some leadership? Why don't you just actually have a view and go to the American people and try to persuade them that your view is wise and then enact legislation in accordance with that wisdom, right? Like that's how real leadership should work.
What's so deceptive, and I think what people don't realize is that a lot of these polls are designed not to measure opinion, but to shape it.
Yes.
So they are tools of influence.
100%. President Trump said this recently in an interview, where he said that the purpose of some of these polls that say, okay, you're down 17 points in Wisconsin. So say you're a Republican voter, you want to support Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. And of course, the polls now are much better for us than they were back in 2020. But let's say you want to support President Trump and you read a story that says he's down by 17 points in Wisconsin. Why even show up, right? So there's a voter suppression dynamic here where you try to get people to get depressed and to drop out of the democratic process. Don't even go and vote if the president is down by so much. The purpose of these polls is actually manipulation of both the public themselves, but also, of course, elected officials. And I think that we have to have the courage to trust our own convictions, to say, screw you, I don't buy the polls, and to do what you think is right on behalf of the country.
Our vice president is telling us no fucking black pilling. That's my takeaway from that. You know, I actually hadn't really considered the thought that part of the role of these polls is to manipulate elected officials. And it's so obvious now that he says it, because a lot of the elected officials are genuinely just dumb enough to be like, oh, the poll, yeah, oh, the poll, oh, the polls, oh, the polls. And so it's like a multivariate effect here. You can manipulate the elected officials. You could suppress voter enthusiasm. You can implant narratives. I think the pollster's got to go too, man. Like maybe we'll make a carve out for Ferruccio or whatever his name is. He's going to be the pollster, and he can bring on Nate Silver as his assistant, provided that Nate Silver does all of his work while he's running on a treadmill. We'll give him oatmeal and water, and he can run on a treadmill all day while he's working, and he's going to work for Mr. Ferruccio, and we're going to have one pollster. That's all that matters. The rest of them, they're going to the Pacific too. Go listen to the rest of this interview. I'll probably play it tomorrow. We'll probably just watch through it because it's only it's a little over half an hour long. And there's some good stuff. One thing I like about JD is he's you can tell that behind the scenes he cusses like a sailor and he lets it slip every now and then when he's talking, especially when he's exhausted, like he obviously is in this one. And then he and Tucker obviously just got great chemistry together. All right, well, I've got one last video for you guys here. Wholesome politics. I'm going to leave you guys with something wholesome. And I'm going to wrap this up here just in time to give you guys time for maybe a little wee-wee break. Grab a beer, something like that, and then sit down for the Pony Express radio stream tonight on the Old Glory Club channel, where they're going to be talking about pagers. But before we get to that, and before I leave you guys with Hulk, I'm going to give you this one. Wholesome politics. I like to end it on a wholesome note.
I have a great playlist. Nice and soothing, right?
It is calming as ever. Possibilities.
Well, just taste a whole stick of butter.
A lot of chicken. Yeah. My name is Joe Biden. And I know my shit.
hit a 500. That's right.
It's all about possibilities.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. There you go. This is all good stuff.
Anything is possible when we do it together.
All together.
Thanks for coming by.
Get in there.
Let's go!
I have a great playlist. I mean,
Wholesome as fuck. Well, thank you for showing up here to get here tonight, guys. I appreciate you joining the evening Astrolabe. I'll be back tomorrow for another episode around the normal time, late morning, maybe a little before, a little bit after noon Central Time, and I've got some good stuff ready to go, lined up already. Go join the King Pill Discord for the Schizo stream tomorrow evening. Kingpill.com is the place to go to sign up for that, and go watch the live stream tonight, starting in, where are we at here? Starting in 19 minutes. 19 minutes. Go over to the Old Glory Club YouTube channel. I was going to redirect you guys automatically to it, but I didn't make it last long enough, and they have to allow me. So, Pete, if you're still listening there, if you want to allow me to redirect to you guys, I don't know how often I'll need to, but it'll at least give me the option in the future. So I'll see you guys in the live chat over there. And I'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of the Astrolabe. Go follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. And I leave you with Hulk.
They're my hero. And they tried to kill the next president of the United States. Enough was enough. And I said,